Alright, so this is going to be part 2 to what if Asta had time magic. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
They took it to 10. Let me tell you how I come through with the 1-2, kicking shit like kung fu. Treat a bad bitch like she average. I'm a savage, little hoe, what you want do? I'm about cash if the raw fast. I'ma get that little nigga by any means.
Alright, before I get into this what if, I would like to say that there are still 2 spots open for the 10 commandments. So yeah, if you want to join, like I said, you could either hit me up on Discord, which my Discord information is in my about section on my channel, or yeah, just hit me up on Discord and then tell me, your YouTube name and then your best video. Your best video doesn't necessarily mean your most viewed or your most popular, because you could have like a very good video but just no one watched it and things like that, right? So yeah, so if you want to join, just hit me up on Discord and just do what I just said. And I'm not going to accept everyone, right? There's going to be some standard to it. So yeah, it's not going to be too high. Just know that exists. Alright, so in the last part, we just got done with the Magic Knights exam or ceremony, I guess. In this part, we're actually going to go over the baptism and then the village. So our story would start off a little bit after the Magic Knights exam, or yeah. So this is the part where Finral is going to open up the portal for what's it called, for Yami and Gordon and Asta to go through, so they could get to the Black Bull's hideout faster than instead of riding brooms, because it's just a lot faster. So when they get there, Asta's very excited to see the giant mansion that they live in, that kind of old mansion, because he's never really been to this kind of building before, or a building like this, because he's always lived in that kind of small village. So he runs in and opens a door, excited to meet his new squad mates, and what he finds is 2 mages fighting. One mage with electricity magic or lightning magic, and the other with fire magic. And the one with lightning magic is actually instigating the one with fire, and he's not sure what's happening. And then he noticed other people there. There's a woman, just a short woman just eating food, and another just barely waking up after drinking a lot, and then a fourth person, a fifth person just there, like looking at a picture of his own sister kind of creepily. And then finally there's a large kind of person just in the background just smoking, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he actually gets hit by one of the fire attacks, right? And this is when Yami would come through and basically tell him to stop and to stop breaking stuff, as he would normally. And as he would also hit the wall. So after this would be done, this is when Magna and the rest of the kind of Black Bulls would be excited for Yami to be back. And Yami would say, like, look, we got a new recruit, go introduce yourself. And this is when Asta he would say, my name is Asta and I come from Hodge Village. I'm happy to be part of the Black Bulls. And this is when Finral would introduce Asta to the Black Bulls. He'd be like, that's Magna, that's Luck, that's Vanessa, Charmy, Gray, Gordon, I'm Finral, and this is Yami. And I'm pretty sure that's all. But yeah, he would basically say, yeah, they're all pretty good people. So Asta would be excited to join, and this is when Magna would be like, hold on, there's something that all recruits have to go through, a kind of baptism through fire, if you will. And this is when Magna would actually incentivize Asta to do it by saying, if you do it, you'll get this cool robe, that being the Black Bull's robe. And he's like, Asta would be like, give me it. And then he's like, not so fast, you need to do the baptism by fire. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And Asta would be pretty good he basically aced the physical part of it, just how he does in the anime, with doing like those like thousands of push-ups in a few seconds and things like that, right? And like crushing the big boulder. So we would get to the part where Asta has to dodge fireballs from Magna, right? So the basic fire shot or fireballs that he throws, he's able to easily dodge, not really using his time magic, because he was able to do that in, canon. So after a while, Magna's like, all right, you could either dodge, deflect, or overpower this move, but you need to do something or else you're going to die. And he does a charge explosion shot. I don't remember the correct name, but I'm pretty sure it's something to that degree. I think it's called explode charge shot or something like that. So he charges up this like one of his most powerful like fire spells, and as he throws it, Asta, since he has time magic, he could really, he's fast at reacting to things, right? So what he would do is that he would use a chronostasis, right? Just how the Wizard King was able to use against his fight with Patri and the kind of light magic that he had. So that's what he would do. He would do like chronostasis, like time magic chronostasis, and then an orb would surround that kind of fireball, and there'd be those Roman numerals, just how you see on screen, right? So Magna would be like, what the heck? What type of magic do you have? Or he wouldn't say that because Asta would have said it out loud. And he's like, wow, this kid was able to like stop it. And Finral would also be surprised, since that would be the first time in a while that he wouldn't have to, intervene in a, Magic Knight's, in their baptism, right? So after that was done, everyone would congratulate Asta's power and how he was able to get through the kind of ceremony, right? So people, I think Magna would be like, so you were able to stop my, most powerful spell, but your grimoire is only like one page? What's up with that? And, as everyone's celebrating, he would basically say like, yeah, I have time magic, right? And this is when Vanessa would use her string magic to kind of give him the robe and put that kind of signia in his headband, right? And Yami's thinking to himself like, this kid has a lot of potential, because he knows that Julius has time magic, and he's one of the closer people to Julius among the Magic Knights, right? Other than like William and things like that. So Yami sees a lot of potential in Asta, and Asta and the other Black Bulls are celebrating on him, actually joining, just how they do in the anime. And as this is going down, there's a person actually watching them, and this person is actually revealed to be Noelle, right? Because she would still get into the Black Bulls, because she can't control her magic. So yeah. So I did read, some of your comments about what type of spells that Asta's gonna get. And there's like 2 for sure that I'm gonna do, or maybe 3. One's going to be Time Cutter, but I'm gonna change on how the person did it. So the commenter said that if someone gets hit by it, then they freeze for like 15 seconds. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something slightly different. Or it's still going to have to do with time, right? So it's going to be like a sword made out of like time energy or time magic. And basically it's going to be like a dull sword, but it's going to appear sharp because the spot that it cuts basically ages, right? But it doesn't like spread out. It's very precise in where it like ages, right? It only ages on like the cutting line. So it's going to appear to be very sharp, but in reality it's just aging that particular spot. Another one is called Time Heals All, and it's basically going to be a kind of healing spell that kind of reverses the time, and I'm going to make it where it could reverse, limbs that are cut off, but it can't like reverse death. So yeah. I guess another one would be called Magic Room. These are all comments, right? By the way. And what it does is that it has like this AoE effect where it could either like accelerate or decelerate time depending on how Asta wants it. And it's gonna be like a kind of like a smaller AoE. It's not gonna be like super large, right? So yeah, we're gonna say that the next day Asta actually gets a new spell. And this is the point where Asta starts like the Grimoire kind of changes a little bit. It starts turning into that kind of like spiral form, or not spiral, that kind of yeah, I guess you would call it a spiral, that kind of like circular form that the Wizard King has, if you ever seen it. So yeah, it starts to slowly begin that, right? It starts adding like 2 spells, and I'm gonna say it adds the healing spell and then it adds the sword spell, because Asta, in that kind of week of training that he did for the Magic Knights, he would have met that the guy who teaches him swordsmanship. I forgot his name. He has red hair, and he gets like introduced during the kind of Witch Queen arc, where they go to the witch like kingdom and stuff like that, or the witch forest. I forgot what it's called, but yeah. So the next day, Magna would basically like show him all around the kind of like area, or the the hideout, right, and telling him what he would have to do every day. And at near the end of the day, during sunset, this is when they would run into Noelle, right? And Asta would obviously say like, "Oh hey, we're both rookies. It's nice to meet you." And then she would basically say like, she would notice that he has a lot of magic, but she would notice his like grimoire being only 1 page. So she'd be like, "What is an insight like you even like coming up to me? You barely have 2 pages in your grimoire." And she would say the same thing to kind of Magna, but not particularly about his grimoire, but more about how he's a commoner, right? And she would say that she was royalty, and for a second, Asta would be like, "I'm sorry for going up to a royal." And this is when Magna would basically say that it doesn't matter if you're a royal because we're all Black Bulls here. So yeah, and this is when Asta would be like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're all Black Bulls and you're a rookie just like me." And this is when Noelle would be like, "All right, I'll show you our true difference in power." And this is when she charges up a kind of water spell, right? The water ball that she's going to throw. But instead of hitting Asta, it actually turns and hits Magna, just how it does in canon. And she kind of just walks away, acting as if she kind of showed him her strength, right? So it would be the next day in the morning, and Asta would be out in the kind of front of the hideout because he was looking for the bathroom and got lost and ended up in the front, just how he does in canon. And as he's walking through, he would notice, or he would walk through the forest, right? And this is when a ball of water would almost hit him, and then he'd be like, "Whoa, what the heck is happening?" And he would go to the source trying to investigate. And when he gets there, he sees Noelle, and she's practicing her aim. But as she's shooting water balls at this tree where there's a bullseye, she keeps on missing, and she gets more frustrated as she does so. And she doesn't, she starts thinking to herself, all those times where her family basically said she was useless, and then she was, it was embarrassing for a royal not to be able to control her magic, and things like that, right? So she starts shooting even more magic water balls, right? And as this is happening, this is when Nero, the anti-magic bird, kind of lands on Asta, making some leaves rustle. And then this is when Noelle actually notices that Asta has been watching her. So she's basically anticipating him like insulting her and telling her that she's inferior, even though because she said all that kind of trash before. And before Asta can even say something, this is when she kind of charges up another shot, but her magic actually backfires, and she actually loses control of her magic, kind of making that kind of water spiral or like spear that's in the air, right? Just how it does in canon. And this is when Yami and the other Black Bulls would notice a large amount of magic being emitted from a certain spot. And he's looking at this and he sees Noelle in there. And he's like, well, we can't use any attack magic because it's gonna, hurt her. And he's like, hey, Finral, how about you go up there and like use your portals to get her out of there? And he's like, no way, I'm not going anywhere near that. Right? And he's like, huh. Yami's kind of like smoking and like kind of scratching his chin, thinking like, I wish we had someone that could like, I don't know, maybe stop her time maybe to kind of let the spell dissipate by itself. And this is when Asta would land near him. He's like, oh great, just in time. And this is when he would throw Asta at her, and he would use chronostasis on Noelle to kind of stop her, right? And this would make this would stop the flow of mana because she would be trapped in time and the kind of spell would dissipate, right? So that's my kind of justification for it, because other than that, there's no real way that could work other than maybe Yami's black hole ability, but we don't really know. So yeah, so that would happen, and this is when Noelle comes back to consciousness, and she thinks that they're all going to make fun of her. And this is when Magna would say like, oh, so you can't control your magic? Who cares? It's just only one weakness, right? We're the Black Bulls, everyone has a weakness. You just gotta, if you had a weakness, you should have just told us and we could have helped you, right? And this is when the others would kind of join in and ask or tell her that if you have any like problems, then you could just ask them, right? And this is when Asta would tell Noelle like, wow, you have a lot of magical power. It's amazing, right? He would have that kind of, he would still have that kind of similar personality to the Wizard King, just how he does in canon, about how like when he sees newer magic, he thinks it's like amazing, right? So yeah, after that was said, the next day, this is when Magna and Yami would actually go to the capital to play poker with the chief of Saucy Village, and they would end up losing, which would cause them to be in debt to the chief. And the chief, or they basically say like, all right, we'll do one anything, right? And the chief's like, okay, so I want you guys to clear out the boars that's in the forest. And they're like, all right. And this is when Yami tells, he basically recaps the story to Noelle and Asta. So they're both tasked on going to the kind of boars and killing them, right? Getting rid of them. So it goes similar to how it is in canon, but this time Asta has enough magic to ride his own what's it called? Broomstick, right? So he would let Noelle ride with him, and she would be kind of embarrassed, right? Since this is around the time when she would start to have feelings for Asta, I believe, or something similar to that. So they would get to Saucy Village a little bit around the same time, but maybe a little bit faster, since they didn't have to Magna didn't have to carry everyone, and he wouldn't be as tired. So when they get there, they would get done with the kind of boar hunting a lot faster, since Magna wasn't as tired with, he wasn't drained of his magic, and Asta would be able to use his magic to fight more, other than just using his swords, right? So yeah, after that, they would actually, they would go to that kind of trail to go to Saucy Village. And when they get there, they see that the kind of entire town is surrounded by, this kind of fog. So what they do in this scenario is that they don't really have a way to clear the fog necessarily. So what they would do is that they would just use their brooms to kind of go over the village to the point where, to the spot where the kind of center of town would be. And Magna would tell him where it's at because he's been there so many times. And I think he would know the scenario, or where he would know the kind of surroundings because he was able to go through town using the even with the like thick fog in front of him. So I think from a bird's eye view, he'd be able to do it as well. So they would get to the center of town, and this is when they see the kind of locals being, grouped up into this small spot, and the chief has already been dead or has been killed from the kind of midnight sun, right? So when they get there, they see these kind of mages, and they would ask him like, "What are you doing?" And they would basically explain their plan. They would say that these people are basically like animals because they could barely use any magic, and magic in this world is everything that matters. It's like their power and the tools, and creatures that can't use tools are basically animals. That's kind of what they say in like Black Clover. So that's what they're kind of explaining to them, right? And he would tell also like, you have enough power or enough magic to join the Magic Knights, so why are you even protecting them? And this is when Asta would basically say like, because that's our job. The Magic Knights are here to protect the people, right? And these people are one day going to be, his people, because he's going to be the Wizard King. And this is when they would kind of be like, the main leader would be like, you be the Wizard King? Yeah, right. You're just some, brat, right? So this is when the kind of ice mage from the Eye of the Midnight Sun would start throwing tons of icicles towards them, right? And Asta would use his time cutter to basically slice through all the icicles, right? And Magna would use his fire to kind of melt them. And Magnus, like I said before, isn't as tired because he didn't have to carry two people, so he has more reserves of mana. And Noelle's like thinking like, how are we gonna, do this? I feel like I should run. And this is when the kind of little girl would go up to her and basically say like, are you gonna protect us? Or like she says, please save us, right? And this is when Noelle would be like, yes, I need to save this little girl. And as more and more icicles are forming, all around them, it's getting harder and harder to block them, right? And this is when Noelle would learn her Sea Dragon's Cradle, I think it's called. I don't remember. But she would basically learn that kind of shield ability, and this would block them from hitting any of the civilians. So Asta, he would be fast enough, and he'd be able to accelerate his own time to get past each of their attacks, and he would get a good slash on the main mages, right? And after the main one was down, the others would have no real way to defend themselves against Magna, because Magna has fire, which is their kind of opposite, or he has the advantage in that sense, right? So he would use his prison death scatter shot to kind of imprison all of them, including the main mage. So that's kind of how it would go, right? It'd be a lot faster since Asta has time magic and it's a lot more overpowered. And this is when after they would after a bit, right, of them, the time it would take for them to become conscious again, this is when the main mage would basically say like, you're not going to get any information out of us. And this is when Magna would basically say, tell that to the I think it's called the magical investigation, I forgot what it's called, but yeah, it's basically that. It's like the FBI, but like for magic. I forgot. I think it has to do with like something like that. But anyways, before as Magna turns his back, this is when he uses a magical item to basically end everyone's life that's there, right? Just the mages that are kidnapped, right, or trapped. So yeah, there would still be a mage that escapes since he used that kind of water magic to get out. So the main mages that were there would have still died, and Asta would be angry that he decided to take, not only his life, but everyone else's without even asking them. And Magna would be kind of freaked out. And, so would Noelle. So we would skip a little bit forward after, and this is after the kind of village thanked them, and Nero would fly towards them with the magic, I think it's called the magic stone, one of them, right? And he would kind of peck Asta with it. And the grandson of the village chief would basically say like, oh, since you helped us and everything, I think it's only fitting that you would get something, right? And this is when he would, like, the kid would ask Magna, like, do you think I could become a magic knight like you and defend the kingdom? And Magna would basically like, yeah, you could definitely do it. You just have to train, right? So I'm going to end it here. And in the next part, we'll go over the dungeon and things like that, right? So, like I said in the other parts, just comment down some, spells that you want. And with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video.